On Sunday morning, Elizabeth awoke to soft sunlight streaming through her window. The gentle aroma of coffee wafted from the terrace, and the peaceful holiday silence felt comforting. Her potted protea flowers gleamed in the morning sun, a testament to Phoenix's springtime. "Robert, the pancakes are ready." Elizabeth watched her husband's face as she drizzled homemade maple syrup over the stack. Sunday breakfast had become a cherished ritual during their 11 years of marriage. As usual, Robert savored his wife's cooking while perusing the Wall Street Journal. "Your pancakes are always perfect, darling." Robert, flashing his bright smile, had made quite a name for himself as the sales director of an investment advisory firm. Always impeccably dressed in expensive suits, his gentlemanly demeanor had earned him the trust of countless clients. Elizabeth, for her part, maintained a careful balance between her role as a research and development manager at a pharmaceutical company and their home life. Though they had no children, their life together was fulfilling. They traveled the world during vacations, enjoyed weekends at the tennis club, and made daily walks through the desert botanical garden part of their routine. Their two-story White House in Paradise Valley's upscale neighborhood stood as a testament to their realized dreams. However, 3 months ago, their tranquil life was shattered by devastating news. Elizabeth's parents had perished in a fire at their mountain retreat in Arizona. That cherished place where the whole family had gathered every Christmas Eve to share homemade turkey dinners. Her mother's hand-knitted sweaters, her father's beloved old wooden chair, the family albums filled with countless smiling faces, all gone in an instant. While sorting through their belongings, Elizabeth clutched a photograph she'd found in her parents' bedroom. Their wedding day portrait, Elizabeth in her white gown, embraced tenderly by her parents, with Robert smiling beside them. They had left behind an estate worth approximately $2 million. The mountain retreat and investment assets were all meticulously managed, reflecting her parents' fastidious nature. Then, her husband's behavior began to change subtly. "I'm sorry, but I have another business dinner tonight. An urgent matter came up. I can't avoid working on the weekend." Late-night phone calls became frequent, and his attitude toward Elizabeth gradually grew cold. Though worry and doubt crept into her heart, Elizabeth desperately tried to preserve their marriage. She couldn't easily question the trust they'd built over 11 years. One day, while sorting through her parents' belongings, she noticed her husband's restless behavior. He kept checking his smartphone, messaging someone. A young woman's photo flashed across his screen. In that moment, a small crack formed in Elizabeth's heart. One morning, Elizabeth sensed something was wrong the instant she woke up. The usual sounds were missing: no shower running, no coffee maker humming, no rustle of newspaper pages as her husband read. The right side of the bed was cold, the sheets completely smooth. As if no one had slept there at all. "Robert." Her hoarse voice dissipated into the vast master bedroom. No response. As Elizabeth tried to get up, she noticed a white envelope. It was addressed to her in her husband's handwriting. Her heart began to race. Her hands trembled. Her feet felt frozen in place. After taking 3 deep breaths, she finally reached for the envelope. Inside were 2 pieces of paper. One was an official document, divorce papers. The other, a letter in her husband's handwriting. Dear Elizabeth, I've decided to start a new life in California with my 19-year-old girlfriend. Thanks to your parents' inheritance, we'll be living quite luxuriously. Please sign the divorce papers. Goodbye, Robert. The letters seemed to dance before her eyes. Her mind went blank. She read the letter over and over, but couldn't process its meaning. Her knees gave way. Elizabeth collapsed onto the expensive Persian rug, unable to move. The tears wouldn't stop. 11 years of marriage, ended by a few lines in a letter. And to use her parents' inheritance. Elizabeth lunged for her cell phone. She dialed the number of her best friend Catherine, a sharp-witted female attorney. Though it might be too early, she couldn't wait. Elizabeth? What's wrong at this hour? The sleepy voice quickly shifted to a serious tone. Come to my office right away, okay? Catherine's calm instructions helped bring some order to Elizabeth's chaotic thoughts. I'll contact the police too. Misuse of inheritance is a serious crime. We need to check your bank accounts immediately. After hanging up, Elizabeth opened her banking app with trembling hands. The joint account history revealed horrifying truths. Last Thursday, a withdrawal of $500,000. The week before, an international transfer of $300,000. The screen blurred with her tears. The precious assets her parents had left behind were disappearing into a life of luxury with some stranger. Wait, could it be? Elizabeth raced downstairs to the home office. She opened the cabinet. Checked the safe for important documents. Her hands shook so much she entered the wrong password 3 times. When she finally got the safe open, the investment documents were gone. The deed to the mountain retreat was missing too. Her husband had methodically prepared everything. How dare you trample all over my life? Gritting her teeth, Elizabeth stood up. Still in her pajamas, she changed into slippers. She grabbed only her wallet and smartphone. I'll never forgive you. Just before leaving through the front door, she took a deep breath. The fresh morning air helped cool her confused mind a bit. A car silently drove away down the quiet street of the upscale neighborhood. Its destination, Phoenix's most prestigious law firm. Behind the wheel, a woman stared ahead with determination. This was only the beginning of her revenge. When Elizabeth arrived at Catherine's law office, a team was already assembled. Emergency petitions for asset freezing, draft police reports, property inventory checklists. The legal defense line to protect Elizabeth's life was being rapidly constructed. Elizabeth, your parents' inheritance is still in the middle of the official succession process, right? Catherine's sharp observation made Elizabeth start. Yes, the final judgment hasn't been issued yet. That works in our favor. There are special protective provisions for pre-inheritance assets. We can completely block Robert's moves. Documents spread across the desk one after another. Bank transaction histories, credit card statements, copies of property registrations. and photos of her husband with the young woman, collected from social media. What Elizabeth saw was a blonde girl laughing by a luxury hotel pool. Posted 2 weeks ago. Location, Beverly Hills. Her husband's arm wrapped around those slender shoulders. A 19-year-old girlfriend, it was true. Elizabeth sighed deeply with a bitter smile. But her eyes showed no more hesitation. On the wall of the law firm's conference room, a large digital clock silently marked time. Elizabeth and Catherine were reviewing investigation reports displayed on the screen. James Morrison, a renowned private investigator, was reporting the results of his thorough 72-hour investigation. First, let me explain Robert's movements. James projected photos onto the screen. Luxury hotel lobbies, high-end car dealerships, boutiques on Rodeo Drive. All traces of extravagant spending centered around Beverly Hills. March 15th, purchased a Porsche Cayenne for $120,000. April 1st through 7th, shopping spree on Rodeo Drive totaling $80,000. April 10th, bought jewelry at Cartier for $50,000. And he's reserved a suite at the Beverly Hills Hotel for $30,000 per month. Elizabeth took notes of the figures while listening to the steady stream of information. Her meticulous nature as a pharmaceutical R&D manager helped her maintain composure even in this crisis. We've also uncovered details about the woman in question. The screen displayed a young woman's social media account. Jessica Brown, 19, student at Arizona State University. Her father was a local high school teacher, mother a housewife, a middle-class family. Her Instagram was flooded with photos of luxury brand bags and fine dining restaurants. When we track her posts chronologically, an interesting pattern emerges. James displayed multiple photos side by side. At first, typical college student photos, selfies with friends on campus, study sessions in the library. But around February, the tone of her posts suddenly began to change. February 14th, Valentine's Day. A post from the upscale restaurant, Steak 44, appears to mark the beginning of her relationship with Robert. However, your husband isn't visible in these initial photos. Catherine furrowed her brow. So it was a calculated approach. Most likely. Starting in March, luxury brand items begin appearing frequently. A Cartier watch, Chanel bag, Louboutin heels. Then in April, posts from Beverly Hills start appearing. Elizabeth sighed deeply. How could a daughter from a family struggling with student loans afford such luxury? We've completed our investigation of the Brown family. James opened new documents. The father, John Brown, has been a history teacher at Riverside High School in suburban Phoenix for 25 years. Annual salary, $65,000. The mother, Mary, is a housewife who occasionally sells baked goods at church bazaars. The family has a good reputation. They appear completely unaware of their daughter's behavior. A heavy silence fell over the conference room. This is more serious than we imagined. Catherine stood up. Let's initiate contact with the Brown family. They're both victims and potentially crucial witnesses. Elizabeth nodded quietly. But how? Through official channels, Catherine said firmly. First, we'll prepare documents outlining the facts. Copies of all evidence, bank transaction records, hotel reservations, social media posts. And about the inappropriate relationship on university campus. Elizabeth suddenly leaned forward as if remembering something. Look carefully at the photos from Arizona State University's campus. The three studied the projected photos intently. Elizabeth pointed. Isn't this the business school building? Where Robert was invited as a guest lecturer. Yes, last fall semester, Catherine took quick notes. The calculated approach might have started much earlier. Notifying the mistress's parents requires particular delicacy, James added. I recommend having a professional counselor present, considering the psychological impact. Agreed, Catherine nodded. Elizabeth, you shouldn't meet them directly. Let's handle everything through legal channels. Just then, there was a knock at the conference room door. Catherine's young assistant rushed in, slightly out of breath. Important information, she was breathing heavily. A whistleblower from Robert's company. Suddenly, the situation took a new turn. Suspicions of fraudulent trading at the investment advisory firm. Misappropriation of client assets. And falsification of expenses to cover up the relationship with his young lover. So this was just the tip of the iceberg. Catherine's voice carried a cold anger. Elizabeth remained silent, gazing out the window. Twilight was approaching Phoenix. The ridgeline of Camelback Mountain was turning red in the setting sun. The inheritance from her parents. 11 years of marriage. Betrayal by a trusted husband. And a selfish desire that had derailed a young woman's life. Elizabeth's battle would continue until everything was revealed and justice was served. Let's begin preparations, she said quietly but firmly. For the meeting with the Brown family. At a major bank branch in Phoenix's upscale neighborhood, system administrators were implementing court-ordered access restrictions on Robert's accounts one after another. Private banking accounts, investment accounts, credit cards. All financial transactions were completely frozen. Meanwhile, an emergency meeting was being held in the president's office at Arizona State University. This is a serious matter that affects the university's reputation. President George Harrison spoke while reviewing the reports spread across his desk. Inappropriate relationship between a guest lecturer and a student. Suspected unauthorized access to university endowment funds. And misuse of student personal information. Disciplinary action for her seems unavoidable. The Dean of Academic Affairs spoke gravely. On her desk lay Jessica's academic records and extracurricular activities. Once an excellent student, her grades had recently shown a sharp decline. Phoenix Federal Court. In the courtroom lined with massive marble columns, a fateful trial was about to begin. Elizabeth sat in the plaintiff's section with Catherine. The 3-week investigation had revealed a situation far more extensive than imagined. In the defendant's section, Robert was nearly unrecognizable from his former gentlemanly appearance. His expensive suit replaced by prison-issued work clothes, his once neat hair disheveled. Defendant, how do you plead to the charges?" The judge's voice echoed through the courtroom. Robert slowly stood up. "I plead guilty to all charges. And I have something to say." Robert's voice trembled slightly. "I planned everything deliberately. Even Elizabeth's parents' accident." Elizabeth's spine froze. "I intentionally tampered with their vacation home's heating system." The courtroom erupted in chaos. A confession to murder. A truth that no one had anticipated suddenly came to light. Catherine gripped Elizabeth's hand tightly. The tears wouldn't stop. Her parents' death wasn't an accident. Her beloved parents had been victims of her husband's cruel scheme. The judge declared an emergency recess. The prosecution team hurriedly began reviewing new evidence. Elizabeth stared out the window. Phoenix's sky was unusually clear and blue. Surely her parents' souls had been waiting for this moment of truth. Spring 2027. Elizabeth stood by the window in a modern research facility in suburban Phoenix. Now promoted to Research and Development Director, the medical research foundation she had established was achieving steady results. Martin Memorial Medical Research Foundation. This facility, established with her parents' inheritance, focused on developing medical technologies to support safe living for the elderly. The laboratory was lined with prototypes of accident prevention systems. She had transformed her parents' tragedy into a force for helping others in similar situations. "Elizabeth, the board meeting is ready." Her secretary Jane called out. The conference room was filled with pharmaceutical industry leaders. Her research team's new safety system was likely to be adopted as an industry standard. Just as she was about to begin her presentation, her smartphone vibrated. Breaking news about Robert Martin. Since his life sentence for murder was confirmed, his life had plummeted to rock bottom. He was forced to perform the lowest grade labor in prison and had reportedly suffered frequent abuse from other inmates. Elizabeth quietly tucked her smartphone into her pocket. She was no longer imprisoned by the past. In a small Arizona town, Jessica Brown was studying in the local community college library. After being expelled from university, she was rebuilding her life under her parents' strict supervision. Her social media was completely shut down, all traces of her luxurious lifestyle erased. She continued psychological counseling but was gradually beginning to look forward. "Jessica, it's time to return the books." Her mother Mary called out gently. Her relationship with her family was slowly being restored. That night, Elizabeth was watching the evening news while dining alone. Inheritance Management Law Amendment passed. The announcer continued. This amendment, known as the DeMartin Clause, strengthens penalties for misuse of inheritance and protects marital assets. Triggered by the Elizabeth Martin case. Elizabeth turned off the TV with the remote. Outside the window, the setting sun over Camelback Mountain gently illuminated Phoenix. Stepping onto the terrace, a spring breeze caressed her cheek. Memories of time spent with her parents at their mountain retreat. 11 years of marriage. And that shocking betrayal. All these experiences had shaped who she was today. Her phone rang. It was her best friend Catherine. "Elizabeth, are you ready for tomorrow's lecture?" The next day, Elizabeth was scheduled to speak at a local women's college. The theme was overcoming life's crises. An opportunity to pass on her experiences to the younger generation. "Yes, I'm ready." Elizabeth smiled as she reviewed her lecture notes. Her eyes reflected both strength and gentleness. In the night sky, a star grew brighter. Surely her parents were watching from heaven, watching their daughter overcome that ordeal and forge a new path. This story was both a record of one woman's revenge and a tale of rebirth. Though betrayed and deeply wounded, she transformed that experience into a force for giving back to society. Her courage had become a beacon of hope for many others in similar situations. While the past cannot be changed, it can always serve as a bridge to the future. Elizabeth spread her arms to feel the night wind. Tomorrow would bring another morning. And she would take another step forward. For every ending is always a new beginning.